I'm Russell Leong. I'm an editor, writer, and a professor. That's what I do for a living. I was born and raised in San Francisco. I'm third generation.
And you tell us how your childhood was like growing up in San Francisco Bay Area in the 50s and 60s.
Well, the 50s was the McCarthy era, and there was a Red Scare, the scare of the Chinese communists and so forth. So I would say there was a lot of anti-Asian discrimination, and Asians, especially Chinese, had to keep quiet because, during World War II, Chinese were the allies, and then after 1949, after the establishment of the People's Republic of China, the Chinese became enemies. And so Asian Americans, Chinese Americans were sort of on this tightrope of international politics. Whatever was happening on the world scene influenced our status and our acceptability in the larger society. So in that sense, I think the 50s was a quiet era, and some people who were supportive of the new China were even deported. So, you had to basically watch your back.
Was your family affected by any challenges because of their race?
Yeah, I think so. My father was a journalist and a Stanford graduate, but I think it was very difficult for him to get a job in the mainstream at the time. And so he basically worked for himself and started his own kind of English language Chinese paper. But still, he would have preferred, I think, to work for the New York Times or some other type of paper. And for women, it's not only their ethnicity, but of course being a woman. So I would say the 50s were a difficult age for a typical Chinese American family like mine. Yeah, we lived in Chinatown. I think there was a lot of de facto segregation, but we never really moved out of Chinatown until my father died. So, that's where I lived.
Right.
Yeah.
Can you describe the Chinatown of your childhood?
It was a very intimate place. I liked it. No identity problem. Everyone was sort of like me, speaking English or Cantonese. At that time, this is before the 1965 immigration laws, so all the Chinese were Cantonese, basically,
right.
Cantonese speaking, mainly Toisan.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a very familiar and a predictable type of place. You knew everybody, they knew you. When you were walking the street, you would hear the Chinese music clubs, and you would run into the greengrocer or the guy who sold oranges or fish or pots. You would see the same old white prostitutes on the street at night.
Male prostitutes, female prostitutes?
A female, knocking on doors, because a lot of Chinatown was still a bachelor society.
Right.
Many men could not bring over their wives or families due to the exclusion laws.
Mm-hmm. When were you first aware that you were gay? Or that you were sexual, I guess?
Well, I would say I was sexual before I was gay, because I just liked, if I liked a woman or liked a man, then if I had sexual feelings toward them, then I liked them. That was it. I really didn't use the labels because I thought these kind of labels were for maybe white people or for people who didn't have any other kind of identity. I did not really identify myself primarily in sexual terms. I identified myself in terms of racial or ethnic terms first, before sexuality. I felt that was more crucial or more vital, because people could see who I was in terms of that I was Asian.
Right.
As far as sexual orientation, it's kind of unknowable, and also changeable.
At what point did you seek the company of other men, and how did gay men find places to meet at that time?
There were bars in downtown, and I would go there and meet people. I think my first lover I met there was a Shanghainese student at UC Berkeley. His parents were emigres, like opera singers from Shanghai, or at least they were involved in the opera community. So that was a that was an interesting experience. So I think that was maybe perhaps my first experience. I think at 20, at 30, 40, 50, you have a different ways of of thinking about a relationship or sexuality or love. I think at 20, it was basically narcissistic. So if they liked me because I was a handsome guy or something, then that was kind of a turn on. And so if I look at pictures of myself in my 20s, I might have been cute, but there was a certain vacant expression. At 30, one changes. You know, you have a job, you have certain responsibility. Your love life has to sort of fit into your work schedule. And then 40, 50, 60, it's different also. Falling in love, I think it's the same as for anyone else. Falling in love, it seems like an old-fashioned term these days. Falling in love. Is it like falling into a open sewer? I'm not sure. Well, I think if you read my stories in Phoenix Eyes, which is a collection of short stories, there's a lot of me in there, because I think being Asian and being, say, a Buddhist or a Christian or whatever is equally important in terms of how I do things. That's just one factor. And sometimes, you know, they're sort of combined, so it's really hard to separate them.
Right.
One could be a gay Asian American Buddhist man or something like that, right? But I guess one example would be that I would be, I think, supportive of certain kind of third world movements, the women's movement, certain kind of social justice issues. And whether that's because I'm a gay man or because I'm an Asian American or an American minority, it's hard to say. But I think they all figure into the equation. It was great. I was in the sort of Chinese Students for Social Action group, and which was part of, you know, the other groups like the Latino and Native American groups. I think it was the first time I actually made friends with other minorities, like Afro-American, Native American especially. And one of my good friends was Richard Oakes, one of the leaders who reclaimed Alcatraz. They went out to Alcatraz and sort of tried to reclaim it for Native Americans. And so I think that really opened my eyes to the fact that to be Asian American is not enough, at least in America, and even in the world. You have to be, you have to recognize that the other groups have a lot to contribute, and basically you can be stronger if you are kind of working together on certain political projects. Well, because I'm in academia, Asian American Studies did not really have courses or writings or curriculum on or syllabi on Asian Americans. So I edited the first volume on Asian American sexualities, which was primarily on gays and lesbians, and also on Asian American film, moving the image with visual communications. Both of these volumes included artists, writers, and also gay and lesbian people, whether talking about Thai female lesbians or Filipino AIDS activists. And so basically, through my job as an editor, I had the power to help shape the what gets published. I think by putting a focus on this, I think it actually helped to open up, to begin a lot of classes and to begin the dialogue about in academia, even though people would say I'm, you know, not ageist or sexist, but they don't have any materials. And this is in the 90s. In the years to follow, as an editor, I worked with other folks like we published a volume on the marriage equality debate from an Asian American angle, which included writers like Helen Zia, and so forth. We also publish articles on HIV and AIDS and the relationship between immigration policy and sexual discrimination policy. By having doing the type of work that I did, being an editor and as a professor, I managed to incorporate, include, and shine a light on these type of issues. And I think I would say that's a big part of my activism. Also, I attended conferences in Hong Kong, Beijing, Taiwan, other places in which I did bring gay material or reference Asian American sexuality.
Sure.
So I feel that it's not only in terms of Asian America, but trying to actually kind of bridge, letting people know that, well, you know, Asian Americans also have, there's sexuality is part of the dimension of being an Asian American. And so, for example, I attended a World Tongzhi conference in Hong Kong. It was a World Conference of Chinese gays and lesbians, and this was right after the takeover of Hong Kong. So it was a very interesting time, and they had representatives from PRC, Taiwan, America, and I think I gave a talk and some poetry reading and so forth. But I guess so through my edited work and also my own writing, I think I have been active. Also, I was a volunteer to teach sort of writing classes and creative writing to Asian and Pacific Americans with HIV and AIDS at an organization in Los Angeles for a couple of years. And so through these type of activities, they may not be directly on the street activism. I've never marched in a gay parade, but I think through other means, I have provoked discussion and dialogue, and so now it's pretty commonplace for young scholars and Asian American studies to include queer studies from an Asian American perspective. Before it was just white, and so I guess that's how my work has evolved, or how I've been able to integrate my personal orientation with my political and academic